Hi, folks. It's Professor Eli. Welcome to yet another week in 102. And as always, thank you so much for all your hard work. I know this is a lot of effort and you're doing it in unusual circumstances, but it is appreciated. I want to tell you a little bit about the work that is due this week. It's not especially tricky, but it is going to be fairly labor intensive and time consuming. So please do make sure that you allow proper time to complete the literature review, which is due at the end of the week. This is an actual section that will appear in your overall paper at the end of the semester. This is the section of the paper in which you're going to be talking about basically what your sources have to say about this topic that you're covering. You're going to make sure that we understand that you have really investigated this topic, that you're looking at it from a lot of different perspectives, and that you're relying on your sources to help inform your thinking. That's really, really important. If we didn't have this section, the paper would end up being sort of a lot of opinion or making assertions without being able to back those assertions up. This section is about showing your reader that you've done the research. You understand what people are saying, what the researchers are saying, what the studies are saying, what the experts are saying about the topic that you are discussing. And you're going to present that evidence in this section. Um, and that basically is the whole reason that you did the grid of common points last week. It was to gather that research to make sure that you had enough sources to really support everything that you're going to discuss in your actual paper. So this is just the grid of common points was a kind of foundation for the work that you're going to be doing this week, which is preparing the literature review section, in which you go into a lot more detail about the ideas that were raised and discussed and presented and synthesized in your grid of common points. So this is kind of what it looks like. I've got a sample one here for you. I'll make sure that it's posted in our module, or I'll send it to you as part of my weekly letter. But either way, here is what yours should look like. You want to make sure that it is in Times New Roman 12. That is my preference, Times New Roman 12. And you want to make sure that it's double spaced. And you're just going to have a series of paragraphs in which you talk about the information as the ideas that are coming up, the ideas that the experts have in common, and also the ideas that the experts seem to disagree on. Anything that has to do with what your experts are saying, what your research is saying about the topic, you want to get that information here. As the assignment points out, this section should present a synthesis of information from your research, as well as an understanding of how this information or any sort of disagreements or debates that you've uncovered about your topic, how you're going to relate this all to your topic. So this is kind of what it looks like. Yours should look the same. Your name, the class, my name, the date. You might want to start thinking about coming up with a title. I like to have titles that are broken into sort of parts so that it's clear to the reader the different issues that are going to be addressed in the paper. So this one is divorce, fertility, and labor force participation among women. Gives you a sort of fairly clear idea of what is going to be covered in the eventual paper. The lit review starts with an overview, folks, a broad general overview of the issues that you're going to be addressing. It doesn't really include any direct quotes unless you find that necessary. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is just giving a broad overview. Usually takes a paragraph, maybe two paragraphs to give the broad overview here. So you'll want to look at this example that I have. It's just talking about women's participation in the labor market and how that is often connected to issues of divorce, issues of fertility, and other relationship issues. So there are two paragraphs. You don't necessarily need to, but there are two paragraphs here that give an overview of the topic. And then as soon as that overview is complete, you start talking about what the experts have to say on this topic. And you also want to be thinking about breaking the topic into pieces, which you did as part of your grid of common points. You'll talk about the first subtopic or idea related to the larger topic. Then you'll talk about the second one, the third one, however many you have, making sure that you are quoting and paraphrasing, particularly paraphrasing quite a bit. And by the way, just remember, every time you paraphrase a source or quote directly from a source, you have to immediately include an in-text citation. Anytime you paraphrase or directly quote, either one, you have to make sure that you have an in-text citation indicating where the information comes from. Usually we signal in with something like Smith says or according to Smith. Then we put in the quote or the paraphrase, and then we do something called signaling out, and that's the in-text citation. It's a way of indicating to the reader, I'm about to quote from somebody, and then when you're done, I'm done quoting from that person. A signal in, a signal out. And you'll see a lot of that here. There are other ways to do it. Here's an example where the person, this first example, the person does both. They signal in and signal out sort of at the same time. Doesn't really matter. You just have to make sure that it's abundantly clear that you're quoting or paraphrasing. Otherwise, you can be accused of plagiarism. So, as I said, I'll post this. You can read through it. I will admit that it is not the most exciting thing in the world, but you don't have to read it closely. You're really actually reading it to see how it's structured. That's what's relevant to you. This one is about twice as long as yours needs to be. This is about 12 pages. Yours only needs to be about 6 or 7 pages. Part of the reason this is so long is because it has a ton of sources that he's referring to. You only have to have 5 or 6 for this, but those are requirements. Okay, folks, 6 or 7 full pages, 5 or 6 sources, double-spaced, Times New Roman, 12 points. And then when you are done assessing or reviewing the literature, you're going to start a reference page on a separate page. And this is the list of references that are referred to in this literature review section. I want you to notice a few things. Well, the most important thing to notice is notice how this section is alphabetized. Does everybody see that? It's alphabetized by the first name of it's usually the last name of the source, but it's alphabetized by author's last name. That's usually how it's arranged. So please make sure to alphabetize this list. Please make sure this list, as well as the document itself, is double-spaced. Please try to include a header or a footer that has your last name and the page number. That's also very helpful. So again, I'll post this to make sure that you have a sense of what to expect. As always, I have office hours on, when do I have office hours? I forget for a second. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So please email me if you'd like to make an appointment. And as always, please make sure that you are attending to this week's discussion on Wednesday and then again on Sunday. And then finally, I know I sound like a broken record, but don't forget that all assignments are due by Sunday. Thank you so much and have a great week.